know, Lord, I hope for you. Silence is too much. All I gave, yes, the raging dogs of war have me in their teeth. How long will you let me drown in this draining bottle? Lord, I took the wine for water. How long? Will the Father ever run out to meet the wayward sitting daughter? Oh Lord, must I go on fighting alone? I cannot hold back the cold. Your absence is tribulation. I am so weary of this doubt. Oh Lord, kill me or kill this contemplation. Good evening, everyone. Very small. I mostly wrote limericks about animals, most notably one about a man who had a local wedding on the beach. He didn't know that he was in fact marrying a whale. I don't know what inspired that poem. I was very proud of it. I know that I had it. But feeling, in my life, great. I think for this section because I love God. Lost my place. What page? I write about things I love mostly, God and funny things. So things I love with a healthy dose of things that really frustrate me. And for this reason, I write a lot about love itself, as many people know, that is quite. But as for this book, I wanted to do something I don't wish to do often. I wanted to tell people something, which isn't my go-to. I'm more kind of a hold back kind of person, but I had something I wanted to communicate. Relationships are hard. Relationship with God is no different. It takes hard work, communication, patience, trust, love, and all of those things are really hard to come by, at least on my end of the relationship. This collection is made up of a lot of the doubts, fears, insecurities, and even anger that can pile up in the heart. It's my pain to share, and I do so gladly because that isn't all that's in here. I share the joy too, the peace, the love that comes from a loving God, and trusting Him with my heart. I hope that if you take anything away from this book, that you're not alone in any of it. The pain is not borne alone. The joy is not felt alone. I understand what I've been given to understand. God understands it all. So now I'm going to share some poems with you that I have recently very excited about now, and a little bit of stories behind it as well. The poem I'm about to share with you tackles one of the things I'm still trying to understand in my relationship with God, which is my mental illness. It's very difficult to look at yourself and see God sometimes. The poem is called Made, Not Mistaken. If I was made, not mistaken, explain the eyes that never learns to be anything but rivers. Explain the mind that holds happiness with the hand grenade. Explain the skin under my fingernails to the scratches on my thighs. Explain the throat suffocating itself on the thrashing thing of panic. Explain the head that begs to be clouded, the heart that begs to be bled clear. Explain why anyone loves this thing that would only hurt them. If I was made, not mistaken, explain why I was made broken. Over the course of my life, lots of Bible verses have been given to me, thrown at me. And one of the ones that kind of hurt to hear in the midst of pain is that one about being fearfully and wonderfully made. It's easy to understand the fearfully part, not quite so easy to understand the wonderfully made part when you live in that place with yourself, in that room, that you're locked in. This poem is kind of an outpouring of that. I don't have an answer, because I don't have an answer. I don't know if anyone does. I haven't been miraculously healed, and I may never know why I made the way I was. That question of how can I be worth anything if I feel so worthless is one that has plagued me often in my life. But it is a question that's answered by this next poem. So, that answer to how can I be worth something I feel so worthless can be answered in this poem, the evidence of worth. You are worth running after. You are worth fighting for. You are worth parting the heavens and splitting the earth. Cosmos have moved out of love for you. And the proof of this is you are worth the life and the death of a God. This makes me smile. Because it's hard to believe you're worthless when there's someone always showing you everything that they would do out of love for you. The most constant example of that is God. It's really awesome. It's really nice. You know, I'm also shown a lot of love by my family, my friends, my husband. And I have the privilege of being really close to a lot of people. It's really gotten me through this life. I also have the privilege of knowing several writers, and something that I know to be true about all of us, they were always working on more than one project at once, probably too many at once. They were the writers. And next collection is going to be about friendship, all of what it takes, and the journey that it is go on. We have a poem titled "Unsent Message Number 1." From very far away, moved to a different city. Want to say, I'm glad we were friends, even though it hurts sometimes. I'm glad we once knew each other so well. We had our own language. I'm quite glad too. You found your happiness. I'm so very happy. Both made it. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. This next collection is in 2 poems that are meant to be read together. They are titled Fallacy and Meanwhile. It isn't the universe that calls your life out from the dark. The universe doesn't care. Half of the stars you've ever wished on are dead. Wild animals are born with broken legs. The universe is an unmarked grave. Meanwhile, an order exists in which all lilies and sparrows are named, are known, are noticed. Now I'd like to share with you something I didn't write. I wish I did. For life is worth more than food, and the body is more than clothing. Consider the birds of the sky. They neither sow nor reap, have no storeroom or barn, and yet God feeds them. How much more valuable are you than birds? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They do not labor or spin, but I tell you, not even Solomon in all his glory clothes himself like one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass in the field, which is alive today and burns tomorrow, how much more will he clothe you? And are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father, but even the hairs of your head are counted. So do not fear, you are more valuable than a great number of sparrows. We'll both go to sparrows, I would wager. I have a chaotic mind and a chaotic life often, and seeing the order and care that's put into every single thing is something that is just truly beautiful to me. That's really gotten me through a lot in life. And the next poem that I would like to share, it's also about a part of the order of things. but not one that we necessarily always like to talk about, titled Prophecy. Incorporeal, death hovers, cross-legged over the grass, withering yellow in his cool shadow. Sighing, trees wait, patient for his touch, for the sweet release of deciduous sleep. They know better than to call him executioner. To life eternal, death is but prophecy of spring. This poem addresses another thing that I struggle with in my life, great fear of mine, fear of death. Not the fear of dying so much, but being dead part has always been scarier to me. And there's a lot of things that have helped combat that in my life, one of which being the story of God in the New Testament, who death didn't stop him, that's right. And the hope that maybe there's something better, after this life. This poem was also partly inspired. Well, I say inspired, but in truth, I don't know if I wrote this poem first or if I saw this painting first. But now they're irrevocably linked in my mind. There's this painting by an artist named Jonas Rosenthal. It's a depiction of death, and death is wearing, instead of the traditional black, it's wearing white, and it looks very soft in the picture. Has a side, but it's held down low in a very non-threatening way. And death is bending down to hit the forehead of a young child that is claiming to take. But it's not really a sad picture. It's more, I don't know, not comforting exactly, but more gracious, I guess, and peaceful. And that is a feeling that I associate with the poem as well. And so I want to share that. I have one more poem to share with all of you. I'm just flying by. At the beginning of the event, I wrote a poem with no introduction for that shock factor, And that poem is titled "Lynn," modeled after the Bible, modeled after Lent. It's difficult. You don't understand that you just need to cry out. There, and the last poem to share poem is about praise, and it's modeled after a different verse of the Bible, titled Psalm. In the levity of daylight, in the honesty of night, O Lord, I will praise you. You have loved me when I wanted for nothing, not even you. In my affliction, praise turned to curses, and in moments I could taste my own tongue. Why do you love me, Lord? I only remind myself of blood. Praise be to the Lord of his people. My faith faltered on the highway. My soul leapt, and I shook with fear, uncertain of the way. Be still and depart. The rearview mirror praises the Lord. See now, he laid the road as I went, to understand he was with me all the while. He is with me even now. What joy! The assurance that life is not a product of chance, madness. I sing joy to you, O Lord, for even in this fallen world, I was made with intention and love. Lord, your faithfulness is like the springtime, for you put your hand among the wreckage and the world turned to kaleidoscope. Every broken thing blooming back whole. Oh Lord, mystery captivates me. Your majesty is worthy of praise. Bewilderment and awe are my blessings. That you could look at me and see more than what I was. my mother um, I don't remember exactly, but I remember the gist of it. I'm very excited. From his perspective, he's so excited to marry his bride. He, like, comes to her on the shoreline and she's wearing this veil, and he comes up to her, and then they like go through the whole wedding. You know, the somehow this doesn't come up, but they go through the whole wedding. He like lifts the veil and kisses her. Hey, takes a pair of scissors and tears her skirt. Like she goes out like rending her clothes. Like how could this happen? I guess she thought that he knew. So I know it's very tragic.
Like, how soon do you have these feelings or these emotions, or are you able to write that down? Is it like immediate, or do you think about it later, or how does that go?
It depends. Sometimes if I'm in the midst of a really difficult time, I am just kind of broken down. I have overflowing, and I have different wired right actually. I have too much inside of me, and I need to put it somewhere, and so I write it down. So sometimes it's that, sometimes it's just work on it, and then later I make it better. Or sometimes there's actually a few here that weren't edited at all. Sometimes the write it down first, and sometimes great. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I have something that I want to write about, but I don't know how. That's another thing that's represented in this book. There's a few poems where there's a subject, I'm like, I want to write about this. And it got to the point where I had the whole thing basically assembled, and then I was like, it needs like 3 more poems. And I don't know what they are, but I can tell that it needs, so I just kind of thought about it too much. And then I figured out, I was like, okay, well, I want to write about this. So then I had to like kind of pull, try to find what it was that I wanted to say, and kind of work my way there in the end. So really, it kind of just depends, you know, what I'm doing. I'm like the kind of season of life. So sometimes I am not able to write things down. So I think of them at work. I have my sticky notes, and I like write it down on a sticky note, shove it in my pocket. Right, I see they're not working. But yeah. We grow in a very technical way. The ingredient, which I was working with. Mainly my husband. So that kind of helped me grow, I guess. Made me actually think with my art as opposed to just writing it down. Um, so that was one way that I did it. In more kind of like spiritual um down time. Me at the time, like when I wrote them, like okay, like this impacted me, like they help me think. Like you write it down, you write it down, and then you think about things. But it wasn't really until the book was a book that it started impacting my faith and my relationship with God. We did this very strange thing where I picked out the poems that I wanted to see in the book, some of them so much, and I arranged them the way that I wanted to arrange. I don't know how to say about it. And then I was looking at it and I was like, well, about this. figure out what this all means. I read it through many times, and I found that I didn't know I had put in. But it helped me grow and see that the first half of the book is a lot of literature that created that and outpouring like why am I this way? Why is the world this way? Here are some things that I've done that I'm not proud of, going on about different things like that. And then as it moves into the second half, it's more like I have done those things, but that doesn't have to matter, and like God's grace in that, and his majesty and like his redemption of me, my poetry too, So that's helped me grow. It's helped remind me, especially like in the last couple of days. There's a poem of Myrophobia, and it's about how something that happened in my life one night that I had where I was not doing well. And then like reading that over and over and over again as I prepared for the event, really got to hear it, because sometimes you can say things a lot or that really happened. I laugh, like, someone.
Then was it something that just came out?
Subject that I would study, again, I mentioned aerospace. Um, second, I wrote so for you that I wanted to write. So basically came down to these three things. Like, okay, I'm gonna write about God. Or I'm gonna write about love, or I'm going to write about my journey with mental illness. All of those kind of ended up being in this book anyway, because that's just how we. So I had those three options, going back and forth, and really the one that you see before you, just kind of happened. Like I was like, okay, I need to sort these 400 poems into 3 piles. And so I had the pile that was like the God pile, and I was like, it grew the best. And if there aren't the most poems about God, probably love is the one that I've written about the most. But the God one was like there. And so I was like, okay, well that's it. And then I almost immediately came to mind with a poem, not a poem, a book title, which has cussing in it. So I'm trying to decide if I should say it. Which I really love that title, but did you think? Like, what? But I thought that it wasn't down, like, well, And that same moment when I came up with the first title, I also came up with this title in God Watcher. And so then I was like, oh, well, obviously that's the title then. And then once I decided that it was just true. I was like, oh, that's what that is. You know, it's like when you make a decision or you're like, oh, that was the right thing to do. You know, it just felt right like that. And I really like it. Titles are really important to me. Usually that's the first thing I come up with. Right. So I feel like it's really useful about what.
Or some, or some of the,
Okay.
where some of the poets who have inspired you, and when you write, you try to emulate them, or do you find yourself trying to not sound like them?
Well, something I'm bad at answering on the spot. I would try. I guess I'll work my way backwards and answer the second part of your question first. When I'm writing, sometimes things just, if you're taking in a lot of something, that tends to come out in what you're creating. So when I'm reading a lot of YA books, I tend to be writing a lot about angst. And like a couple books that I mentioned, those ones I specifically modeled after the way they're those books are Bible. As far as particular poems goes, really like really love really abstract poems. They're like a little visual puzzle. If you can't read it, just look at it. You have to be like, I kind of tell. I have a collection of poems that I have like written on the side, like so that I can have both right there. T.S. Eliot was one growing up, and his book Practical Cats, which became a musical, for those of you who don't know. We think. I really like Ogden Nash, and his really cute little poems about animals. Again, I love animals. One that I remember offhand always is titled The Fly, where it's like, God in his wisdom made the fly, and then forgot to tell us why. Like, you're right, man. Oh my God. And then I really like a lot of random internet poets that I find on Pinterest. And I couldn't really tell you all of their names, but I find I have this board on Pinterest where I pick all the poems. Some of them are meant to be poems. They were just things that on the internet, and then someone screenshotted it, and they're like, and then what if they're trying to get it? And that is something that I love about the internet side of it. Like, obviously it's affiliated server, and those are very different from things you find on the internet. I know that there's more and ones that I admire more, but I don't know if they are. It's all coming.
So it's a two-part question. Do you find that being able to express yourself through this creative method that you found both helps you be more at peace with the things in the world that you don't understand? Second, helps you maybe not understand, but at least accept the relationship with
So you want to know, you want to know if the poetry I write helps me understand my relationship with God. Yes, okay. And then you want to know if writing about tricky things makes it easier to understand or process or cope with. Okay, all right. So for the ones that things they don't understand, it does help to at least get the thoughts out. There are some poems I've written that are painful for me to revisit because it's such a vulnerable, raw thing that I don't want to look at it. I took it out and I put it over there and I don't want to look at it. But that isn't usually the case. Usually I have questions and I have pain and I don't understand and I don't know who to talk to. That's what helps. I think for me, I don't think it was for everyone, but write it down and look at it, be like, okay, what's this? Painful, this is true. This is about me. I can't understand. I can't understand the thing I'm thinking about. A little bit. What's the second part of the question?
Accept your relationship with God better. Not necessarily understand, I think that's like too big of a word,
Very
God.
serious about it.
but at least accept that you have a relationship with God and He loves you.
It definitely helps on that. I've been writing poetry for several years. Obviously those little kids, but like more purposefully for probably, I don't know, past 7, 8 years, something like that. And over the last 4 years or so, I've had a lot of growth in my spiritual life. And I do think a big part of that has been writing poetry, you know, and expressing that and like feelings that I have. And sometimes they're just prayers. Sometimes I can't pray, and so I write it down instead. And sometimes that becomes a poem. There's a few pieces of that in here. And sometimes it just stays on my phone, and that's okay, you know, because it helps me in my relationship with God. And that doesn't need to be something that is like all about there for everybody, especially it's like help. Which may be really edgy, but isn't really like something that I need to express. So yeah, it's up. I was very talkative. I guess the topical question is already been, but when it came to when organized, once you discovered that I'm writing a book, discovered being. I discovered it by being hit over the head. How is that affect your writing to goals that you have already written versus where you had, hey, like it needs 3 more poems, needs 3 more things. Like how did that process switch? Like was there like a switch, or was there a difference in process, or was it just kind of the same process on like speed mode? Speed mode. Yeah, I know. You're right. Speed mode. It is very different process. I won't say that much. I would go to my local coffee shop, or sometimes a coffee shop in Holland, and sometimes here. And there are really 3 poems, you know, because poems are in the book. One that I wrote, I'm like, that's great, that's gonna be in here. Those reasons. And there are the ones where it's like song, lamentation, and a couple other ones where it's like they were in other poems. There were little pieces of it here and there, sprinkled throughout one of the poems, and I had to find them all. So I was like, okay, this is great, but it's not enough. So I was like, let's go find this. And so that was certainly an approach where I would say, take that route and be like, I may not admit this when I wrote it, but I can mean that now. So kind of like And then, so that was, probably time, doing that. Like there were some folks here that were like. I from I hated that so much. My husband can tell you because I was there and I was like, but I don't know what it is. And I didn't do that. And it was a process to get there. Once I landed down there, I'm like, okay. Thank you. Which took a lot of like introspection, I guess. In having like an editorial mind, being like, okay, I need to fix this. I take these things and fix them. And creative mind, where it's like, I need to make something out of nothing. And I had carnation in my hand there. And that can be very important for me. So I would have to like choose and be like, okay, damn. Yeah. But I at least did one of them. And then it ended up it was usually I it's like it doesn't matter who's good, you know. So it's
So along the same lines, my question about timeline, and it's not to be super specific, but just generally speaking, what was this length of process? We know the like kind of beginning childhood whale story, and then we talk about the process more recently in writing more introspectively or more purposefully since over the last 7 or 8 years. Is this book a reflection of 7 or 8 years, or is this book a reflection of the last more recent?
it is a reflection. Well, we have to say nothing that I do now that I have done without what I did then. You know, it's like that. Not practice makes perfect. Practice makes better. And the love of poetry is I loved it as a young kid. We read it during homeschool a whole bunch. It was just great. The tintinnabulation of the bells. Edgar Allan Poe, that's another one that I love. He's my favorite boy. So, and then it kind of like petered off for a while. I was like, let's just I'd rather read a novel. And that kind of love for it kind of rekindled by me making it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna read more of it. So it is more a product of the last 6 or 7 years. I think the oldest poem is here. A couple of them that have been around for a long, long time. The evidence for it is one of them that I read earlier. That one has been in existence for a while. There's a couple. I have an Instagram account. There are a couple in here that were prompts. That you sent in. I've asked my followers, what should I write a poem about? I was like, okay, and then I wrote it. And then I made it better for the book. But so those ones came out of that kind of thing. Like, and then some of them, like I said, were created, but some of them have been around for a long time. And it's kind of weird going back to that. But it was really beautiful too, because I'm like, this is not just like, oh, here's what I've been feeling like. This is really it's a poem near the end of this book, titled Cycle. Because he's got a little bit